Hello, welcome to another episode of the Post Plan Podcast brought to you by BitcoinCasino.vip. Today's guest is my co-caster, Moses. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, but we need to set the record straight. You're my co-caster, Dinko.
I don't know if that's true, Jason. I casted with Henry very recently. I've casted with Yanko more so this season.
Yeah, to be honest, Jason, I think I've commentated more events with Dinko than you have. So,
well, if we want to go this route, let's just talk about the 10-year-long career we've got going on here. So I think really we just all need to accept that the young kid is actually my sidekick, and that's how it works.
Fair enough, Jason. Well, we're live from Bucharest. Henry, you were in this hotel with us last week.
Yeah, we've gone for like a Buki sort of talking counter setup instead of in person. We're going for the kind of low production quality.
Are you guys taking a shot at my podcast and I'm the guest on your podcast?
That's all we've got, Jason. We don't have your numbers, but we do have the one thing we've got is we're in person in the studio. That's all.
Well, we don't have that right now, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Henry, you're out in Malta. We didn't have the technical knowledge to figure out how Jason and I could be in the same room. So we're getting into what is going to be an interesting show where we talk a little bit about Bucharest and also Chengdu that's coming up as well. But first, before we get into that, we always like to talk to the guest, Jason. So you mentioned your 10-year career. We got off to a great start. Obviously now we're going to be casting the major around the corner, but you've done a lot of analyst work, hosting, casting. So Jason, when did you start and what role did you start in all those years ago?
I started in 13?
Casting with Dust, right?
2013, yeah. I had just left my team at the time that I was competing with and halfway through a season. And I decided to cast to kind of fill the rest of the season before picking a new team for the next one. And then I just enjoyed it. But yeah, I started casting with Dust on his stream, went out to the ESEA finals that year, got invited back the next season. And then as soon as that one ended, I got an invite to Pro League Season 1, which was in partnership with ESEA. I was an ESEA employee at the time, so I got brought into that show. And then at some point after that, I think when ESL bought ESEA is when I went freelance. So I started casting, and then when all the commentators kind of split off into their duos and kind of put the kibosh on doing desk segments as well, then I was kind of pigeonholed into doing desk work for a while. So that was 2015, I want to say, end of 2015.
And that trend continues into 2025 somehow.
Yeah, I know. It never ends. Now I've just become the guy that everyone turns to take the desk over when they need it because everyone else says no. But it's okay. It's okay.
It's over now.
It's over now.
So just to be clear, you were still competing in 2013. This is CSGO, still trying to play in teams. And then it was just was it not working out? Did it feel like it wasn't the viable option? Or what was the reason for stopping to play?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same shit that you probably experienced too, Henry, at some point during the careers. You just realize, continuing to pursue the playing dream is such a low percentage opportunity,
especially back then.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, no one was making salaries. I think NIP had salaries, and that might have been
even then. It was
even those were
euros.
Maybe, it wasn't anything crazy. So it was okay, if I want to pursue this path, it's probably if I make it, it's probably going to take 3 to 5 years, maybe, if the game grows to a point where you can get a salary out of it. So for me, it just felt like the more viable way of staying part of the community and staying in touch with Counter-Strike scene was part of commentary and broadcast work.
Well, just like our podcasts are competing, Jason, in a massive way. You and Henry competed in 2 very different games back in the day. Henry was part of CGS, Source. You played in 1.6. I'm sure your opinion is 1.6 was better, but I wasn't around then. I was a child, literally. So
why don't we make our cases for both games? Jason can go first. And then we can see what you think, Dinko, at the end.
I honestly don't even know if I want to dignify the question by trying to by even making an argument.
There is a very compelling argument I can make.
Not even a competition. Okay, you go first then, Mr. Compelling.
Okay, because
argument.
let's be real, Jason. Tell me. I'll ask you one question. What was the biggest salary you ever made in 1.6?
Oh.
I never had a salary in 1.6.
Oh dear. Okay, bad start. Rough
It's
start.
all about money.
That was very apparent right out of the gate. Go on.
There was actually no money to be made in 1.6 unless you were at the very creme de la creme, top of the top. And even then, they were the top players like NIP and Fnatic. They were still making absolute dog shit salaries even towards the end of it. Source, even though I would say an inferior game at launch, Jason probably never played Counter-Strike Source in its heyday. 2010, C block on. And everything, with all the mods and everything, it was actually one of the most goated versions of Counter-Strike. Like, it was 10 times better than CSGO on release. Jason, did you ever actually play that version of CSS?
Not competitively, but obviously, like towards the tail end of before CS:GO came out, like Source was like kind of like the game that was being like pugged a lot in NA. So it was an easier game to pug because it was just an easier game to kill people in. So a lot of the pug.
That argument really gets my goat. Because people always say it's easier games. Like, dude, we had more money than you guys did in 1.6. It's so easy. You guys should come over here and make all the money. It's so simple. It's so easy. Come over and win the hundreds of thousands of dollars each year that are available. And no one ever did. It was the same old guys.
Yeah, but Jason, would you imagine that's because 1.6 is fueled by passion? And he's actually had enough. He's just.
I would say it was filled by spite. It was like
spite.
It was so divisive for some reason. The 1.6 guys just didn't want to move on. They were kind of just like there, holding on to something that they knew was falling apart. And if you play it now, you play 1.6 now, Dinko. I don't know if you've ever loaded it up. It feels like absolute garbage. It feels like dog shit. It's just like it's a memory. It's nostalgia that keeps people going in that game. And people will call me out for those comments, but I'm right. I'm correct. Source was a better game. It might not be as beloved, but it was.
All right, so Jason, I said the point. The reason maybe people from 1.6 didn't go over and play Source was maybe because it's fueled by a passion for a better game. Henry disagreed, but what's your take on that?
I mean, as to that regard, all you need to know is exactly what Henry brought up as his first point was we played the better game because it was the better game, and that's where all the pride was.
That was not my point.
The money, the salary didn't fucking matter at the end of the day. It was us just playing for the love of the game because it was excellent. But look, 1.6 has a richer history, has a longer history, was around for much longer. Most of the legends came from 1.6 in the early days of CSGO. Obviously, there's some notable ones coming from Source as well. But I think in terms of game mechanics, I think in terms of establishing what Counter-Strike was going to be, in terms of the rules, the spamming, I think there was a lot of cool things. I think Henry's right, though. Like, I mean, this was a heated debate back on it. I know you guys would like me to be, like, really hardcore defending it, but I think Source got to a decent place by the end of it. You know, like, it started out really fucking bad. Like, the opening, 2 to 3 years of Source was gross, and that pretty much eliminated a lot of opportunities of any 1.6 players switching over. But obviously, the game was fine at the end of the day.
The thing is, though, Jason, like the reason players and myself and the French guys and everyone played Source is because around that period, we're talking 2006, 2007, to get into the 1.6 team, it was such an elite club.
Yep.
Unless you had the contacts, unless you're already established, no one's going to take you seriously. And it's just like, well, if no one's going to take me seriously in that game and I can't even break through and find people to play with, why didn't I start at the bottom of this ladder that's going up? And that was the main reason for me. I felt like this is the opportunity for me to actually be a professional player. Like the UK scene in 1.6 was garbage. So the fact it was in Source, so there was actually some prominent UK players. It's like, okay, I can get in the good graces of these guys and actually grind a new game that no one's really that established in yet.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about the fact that
it makes sense.
It was just for me. It was just it was a lot more logical to play Source.
Touching on the UK scene in 1.6 being rough, what was the American scene like, Jason? Because, looking at CSGO and now into CS2, the North American region has had its glimpses, its moments, but it's always been seen as one of the weaker regions. Was that the same case in 1.6, or was it maybe a little bit healthier back then?
Healthier for sure, but still kind of similar, although I'll say a different... The whole scene was structured differently because there wasn't really we didn't really have the same level of connection to a Brazilian scene or an Asian scene or even the Australian scene. Really, it was kind of just Europe and NA were the two big talking points, and then really later on in the 1.6 timeline is when Brazilian teams started making more of an impact. Asian teams started being dangerous. We were a lot more competitive back then. The scene locally in the States was a lot healthier. Back then, there were so many LAN events, and there were smaller LAN events scattered throughout the different regions. The Midwest would have their own circuit of small LAN events that every team and player in the Midwest would go to or create a pug team for. Same with New York for the East Coast. Same with Texas for the Central. Same with California. Actually had NorCal and SoCal both ran different events for the region as well. They had their own regional battle between North and South California. And then we all those different circuits that were held regionally would kind of feed into like more the national qualifiers and the bigger events like ESWC, like CPL. So you had a lot more of the scene constantly participating in professional Counter-Strike, constantly playing against each other in LAN environments, in high pressure match environments.
Do you know what the CPL is, Dinko?
No, but I just imagine it would stand for Counter-Strike Pro League or something along those lines.
No. This
Cyber
is an important
athlete.
part of Counter-Strike.
Cyber athlete professional league.
Yeah, Jason
Cyber
should explain why this was so
athlete
important. It was like, for me, even growing up, that was the reason I got into it. Like, it was like, do you know, like now when you play matchmaking, guys, and people are like, oh, what are you doing? You're like kind of training for Katowice, like what is going on? Like CPL was the original like top of the pyramid. It was the creme de la creme. It's where everyone wanted to play. Like we always fantasized about playing at CPL. I got to play one qualifier for in the UK, but Jason played an actual few events.
I think I played
Jason, why was it so
4
important?
CPLs. It was like it was the major of the time, right? Like that was the equivalent of the major. There were 2 of them. There was CPL Summer, CPL Winter, and it was like the only event really early on that Europeans ever came, like the only event where we were going to ever see like European versus NA competition. And that started to open up obviously as the years went on, but CPL always maintained, sponsored by NVIDIA was a name sponsor. So was Intel. So it had all the big names and it really had the big money in terms of the tournament circuit. Whether you're going to get paid that money at the end of the day was a different story, but they offered it. The number was there. But those were the 2 tournaments a year where every team that was that was trying to be the best targeted that to be like, okay, we're going to the CPL and this is where we have to perform well. And it's also why we've done a bad job probably explaining this over the years. It's why like when we go back to Dallas, why partially like Dallas is so special to me because the CPLs are always held in Dallas.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like this weird thing where like there's been like kind of this like someone's like memory, like the community has memory hold this because we talk about Sweden so much as like the birthplace of Counter-Strike and like the home base of Counter-Strike because we have so many good Swedish players and teams over the years. But really like Counter-Strike, the real home of it, of the CPL, of the tournament that kind of spawned everything, was in Dallas. So when we returned to Dallas, I know ESL's made a couple content pieces that allude to it, but we've never really hit the story super hard. The CPLs were the birthplace of kind of everything we know in Dallas or in Counter-Strike. I think it was 2001 when Team 3D played up against NIP, or they were X3 at the time, X3 against NIP in like the epic first clash of the #1 North American team versus the #1 European team, and that's where the whole like EU versus NA debate and argument and like rivalry started. Was that matchup that NIP ends up winning in like double overtime in a legendary game on Nuke, and that's where that began, and that was a talking point from then on. Was can the NA teams get good enough to beat the EU teams?
I think, that's an interesting one because I've always heard, Dallas is, we're coming back to Dallas. It's the birthplace of CS. I'm like, what does that even mean?
You're kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What does that even mean? But that makes more sense. Okay, that's cool. I mean, it's kind of awesome that we have the 100th Intel Extreme Masters in Dallas when all those years on.
That worked out really nicely. That worked out. I wonder if that was just a coincidence or if they actually planned it out that way. But either way, it works perfectly for them.
No, I think the Europeans in charge of ESL probably would have loved it to have been in Europe, to be honest, Jason.
Sure.
But yeah, it's cool to hear about that. I mean, I think for you, Jason, just like all the CS players, your brother got you into CS?
Yeah, and I mean that's a pretty common story, I would imagine. Older brother got me into it when it was still a mod, and I think I started playing in like beta 6. This was in like.
Are you on like the family PC, or like has he got his own computer?
We had built a PC at that time, but like it was shared between him and I. It was when cable internet first came out. Like we had just moved away.
Oh my God.
We had just moved away from 56K. Like my brother and I spent like years playing StarCraft on BattleNet with 56K over the years on like a second phone line, and cable just got installed in the city. So we got cable, so we'd have to switch it over from 56K, plug in the cable line, and then we'd grind some CS. When I started playing the Colt, the M4 had a scope on it.
Yes,
you could zoom in.
Work.
You could zoom in with the M4.
Yeah.
It was always silenced and it had a scope.
Dude, every time either I casted with Vendetta a couple years ago, and then I've been playing CS.
Calls it a Colt.
He calls it a Colt, and it's CS2, bro. Like no one knows what the hell you're saying.
I know,
like,
dude. I still do it. I still do it when I'm casting sometimes too. I still like revert to like old school like 1.6 callouts every once in a while. Like it'll slip out and I'm like, fuck me. Like it's the muscle memory. It's just so ingrained because dude, we grinded those games so hard. We grinded so fucking hard back in the day. Like it's one of the things we couldn't do it to the same extent that players do now because it was never like a job that we could focus on, but it was like get out of school, went to soccer practice, home at like 4:30, get on the PC until like 8 o'clock, dinner, and then find ways to sneak on when your parents go to sleep and grind until like 4 a.m, and then wake up 3 hours later and go to school. Like that was the schedule that pro players had back then.
Yeah, for me, that was when I got addicted to CSGO in like 2014, 2015. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like all those years on, that's what's happening.
And you were watching us then, Dinko.
Yeah, I was actually. Yeah, I was sitting in my science class at school watching you guys cast majors. That was kind of, yeah, I used to buy, there was a pass. Twitch is obviously blocked on the school network, so I had to find some sort of pass. Yeah, definitely. I found Chad did some side content for Snipe or something like that.
Yep.
And obviously no one watched that, so even the school didn't detect that was an issue. So I could buy the pass to watch that in class, and then I would hide at the back of the classroom and watch the CS major in the back. Yeah.
I used to sit on IRC at my classes, and when 1.6 was going on, and just talk to all the European players. We just had we would just sit there just like talking shit.
IRC, for anyone who's aware, is like Discord before Discord.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's like chat rooms where you could join like Counter-Strike invite kind of talking.
I used to use IRC for scrims.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how we mainly used it. But it's like we had like invite channels where you could talk to other pro players and other teams, and then there were scrim channels as well where you could have like the elite teams looking for games, and that's how you'd book scrims.
You'd have team channels, and you'd run a scoreboard in it for your matches. So anyone who is like a U5 fan could sit in our IRC channel and watch the scoreboard.
How many of those did you have?
I don't remember, but it was. I mean, in the States, it got to the point at its peak where it was like one of the bigger channels. But I don't even know what that would be in like relation to today's people, to be honest with you.
So give us some context. So U5 is United 5, right? So as a team you played for, what was is there a sort of a comparison you can make to a team nowadays that could maybe give some context to the newer viewers of Counter-Strike over the years?
Probably not. I mean, I might if I didn't have to answer quickly on a podcast. Yeah, I don't know. I would say we were like a team when my brother and I put that team together. My brother was on a bunch of invite teams, and I was on this invite team that would become U5. And he kind of made the decision to step down from some of the top teams to come play with me. And we slowly kind of made roster changes.
You were the original Henny and Lucas.
Yeah, basically, except a little bit. Yeah, actually, no. You know what? That's accurate all the way through.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And we just got to a point where we went out and we picked up a bunch of the people that, like Henry was saying, it was hard to break into. And it's the same shit as it is now. Like when you're a new up-and-coming player, everyone thinks you're cheating. Nobody trusts you. When you're really, really good, everyone kind of has some suspicion around you. So we basically went around and we picked up like 2 of the players in the scene that had been kind of locked out of top teams because nobody trusted them. They hadn't been to events yet. We brought them onto our team, and we just fucking grinded. And we took like a European mentality about it. We copied how the Europeans were playing CS. We were very focused on practice. We were probably the hardest working team in North America for a year. And within 3 months of the roster coming together, we were undefeated in the invite leagues and the professional leagues. And it was very much going to our CPO when we were competing with them. It was very much all eyes on this team who online have just gone undefeated and just been wrecking everyone who's been established for a while. So I guess, I mean, not really a direct comparison to any team now, but it was kind of a team that very much had to prove itself at the start, and had a bunch of young players in it that would become the stars of North American Counter-Strike into the future.
You had Fraud on that team, right?
Yeah, Fraud was on that team and Trip was on that team, and both of them would obviously go on to Complexity, and they would win ESWC 2006, I believe it was, or 7 maybe.
Yeah, I think
and that
Fraud was probably the most iconic player NA ever produced from 1.6, I would say.
Ooh. I would say K-Sharp, to be honest with you. K-Sharp was like the OG like celebrity. Like
I don't know. Okay, yeah, maybe.
K-Sharp
for me as a player, I thought Fraud was like the one I liked.
Yeah, which makes sense. It was probably the player who was at the peak when you started really getting exposed to North American Counter-Strike on a serious level, I would imagine. And you obviously played against him a bunch in CGS, so you played against K-Sharp too from time to time, I'm sure. But yeah, K-Sharp and Rambo were kind of like the North American Heaton and Potty. Like that was like the duo, the iconic duo at the top of the scene that was there for years. But certainly Fraud took some of that luster away, and he became his own dominant player.
Well, great to hear about some of the North American history.
Walk down memory lane.
Yeah, that was good. But as you know, as of late, we're here in Bucharest for the PGL event. Currently, 3D Max Astralis are playing as we record this. Astralis just absolutely wrecked 3D Max 13-3 in the first
dude,
map.
they've looked like absolute shit this tournament.
Yeah, they have. They've fallen off big time. So I guess we could talk about that because we got to cast them back at CAC, Henry. That was their event to win. Everybody was saying it. They were in the final against Legacy. They absolutely choked it. It was Ancient.
Yeah.
They got absolutely throttled on, and they just lost that again to Astralis. So I guess we can touch very quickly on the Legacy victory.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, the Legacy victory, I don't know. I was not expecting that at all. It looked like they were going to choke the whole tournament as well. It looked like 3D Max, it was an absolute lock-in. They're the absolute favorites. I don't know how they fumbled that best of 5. Like, that's the thing at 3D Max, isn't it? Like, we consider them to be knocking on the door of being a top team, but when it really counts, when the chips are down, that's when they seem to fumble. That's when it all seems to fall apart. I guess we'll give them the kind of excuse, as it were. Like, they play all the events. They're the only team that seems to grind every single tournament. So there's going to be some burnout factors. They're going from like EPL into CAC, and then they're back in Bucharest now. And I know it's a bit all over the place, but they have these moments of brilliance, and then they just seem to drop off. And I think there's maybe even a chance that they don't make it through to the playoffs here at Bucharest. If they lose to Astralis, that's it. It's over, right?
Dude, they're 1-2 right now in the competition.
Yeah,
they just lost the first map.
How do you
Inferno
lose
didn't
to
look good
Astralis?
yesterday.
That's a 1-2 game? Shit.
Yeah, that's a 1-2 game.
How do you lose to Astralis? They have looked absolutely woeful this tournament.
Yeah. Well, it's Ancient. That's the problem for 3D Max, apparently. But they started
The
picking
only
up
team
some...
they've won, the only maps they've won so far is against MIBR with a stand-in.
Yeah.
And even then they struggled. It was like they were on the ropes. They were bloodied. Back to the wall. It was just like it was looking rough.
Well, we'll see if the rest of the series is the same because Inferno's up next. That usually is such a comfort ground, a bounce-back territory for 3D Max, Jason. But we casted them lose at this tournament. Seems like they're really falling off, and I guess that's the... I mean, you can always say the travel schedule. I mean, this is going to be ridiculous. They're going to China again for Chengdu. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, you know, they've fallen back from China for the second time in 2 months, playing immediately at another tournament.
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer because this is coming at a point where like I was just kind of starting to turn around on 3D Max to an extent. Like they hit that phase where they were like they were exciting and then boring and struggling to have any impact that they were having initially, and then they got back into this build up phase, and it's where I was starting to get on and be like, okay, now they've figured it out. They've added some more things, and I still think they're a fun team to watch when they're playing well because I think they have unique ways of approaching situations. But yeah, this is gross, and I don't know if there's anything that we could really pin it on. Like it'd be easy from the outside to say, yeah, individually they've looked a little bit sluggish. The team play hasn't been on, but I think really when you go to it, the root cause of that, you'd have to point to this travel schedule and just be like, this is a team that probably signed up for this grind thinking they'd need some improvement leading into the major. And I think now that they're in the grind and it's having a negative impact, like you just can't get out of it. So they're in that situation where it's like, we're playing like shit. We just got to keep grinding because we're signed up to all of these events. But this is a team that could probably very much use a fucking break.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a week off.
Well, at least after this tournament, they will, right? After Chengdu, right? So after Chengdu, they should have a break up until the major.
I mean, you got to get this event into Chengdu straight away. So one more event to go.
Might just be limping over the finish line, just like barely making it through groups, or
I might be throwing all of us under the bus. Does anyone know? Are they? I can't remember if they're starting in stage 2 or stage 3. Like where do we know where they're starting?
Pretty sure it'll be stage 2 because of their rating. But,
stage 2. Okay.
Yeah, they had a high VRS ranking, so
cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be stage 2. I mean, for 3D Max though, we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit because we're gonna be talking about IEM Chengdu, which is around the corner. At least if they go out here in group stages, they'll have a bit more time before Chengdu. It looks like they could do that against Astralis.
That's why I asked about stage 2 or stage 3 because I think after Chengdu, they're not going to be doing Blast Rivals. So then they have like 2 to 3 weeks off before their stage of
finally,
the major
to be humans. Yeah. But I know we talk about them losing to Brazilians in the CAC final. Legacy, kind of the only team willing to stay with that Brazilian 5 and actually be able to compete at these tournaments at this level.
True.
But Furia, they obviously made some international moves at Bucharest earlier this year, Jason. That's when they brought in Molodoi, and they've just won another tournament. Kez Serrato getting his first MVP. It's crazy to think that this is his first MVP ever, but I guess Furia just don't win tournaments, or haven't traditionally.
Yeah, they've never really been able to. They've never gotten over the hump, which is why it was so interesting. I think it's really cool, especially when you consider the risk they had to take in these roster changes, right? Like they took some big risks, but I think they were calculated risks, and I think they were intelligent risks. Like for me, I never lost confidence that Yakinder was going to make a comeback, just because from knowing him at events and talking to him about the game, it was very clear that what was going on was a mentality thing, was kind of in his own head. So I always felt like he was going to bounce back. I thought it was going to happen in Liquid. It obviously didn't. Molodoi being the big risk of that, and then Fallen switching back to rifle and moving into anchor positions. Those were two other big risks, and all of these risks paid off. Molodoi's obviously been one of the most exciting oppers to watch this year overall, even with the top oppers from the pro scene. And Fallen has been no slouch on the rifle. So they've made these big risk changes. And when this move happened, it was crazy. And I was sat there, I was like, I don't have any explanation for why they went this route, but this is either going to be an absolute train wreck or it's going to be fucking awesome. Like I didn't think there was going to be a middle ground, and they've at least gotten the fucking awesome side, So yeah, it's really cool for Furia, but it comes down to going and finding younger talent, rejuvenating some older talent, and then you've got two really strong brains within the team of Fallen and Yakinder. So I mean, they have a very strong, well-rounded squad.
A team like Furia taking the risk, the gamble to speak in English on an 18-year-old Kazakhstani boy and to pull it off and win two pretty big trophies as well. Fisher Playground taking down the Mongols in a best-of-5. Then on the Thunderpig, taking out Na'Vi, recovering a 0-2 deficit in a best-of-5 grand final.
Yep.
This is some sort of crazy Cinderella run. I can't believe that this has actually worked out the way it has. Like, fair enough, you think, okay, they've had some deep runs and made some playoffs. Now to have two trophies, get Coldzera to his first MVP, and actually get some silverware for the organization, I don't think anyone expected this gamble to pay off to this extent. It's kind of mind-blowing, and now setting themselves up perfectly for the major. They're in the conversation to win the major now.
Yeah, they're definitely in the conversation. I think what's so great about this is what you were saying, Jason. It's just the amount of risks and the amount of things that had to go right. Surely one of them wouldn't go right. It's like either the Opera comes in, he's not as good, or he doesn't adapt to Tier 1 as well as the stats are highlighting. Yep. Or Fallen, it just shits the bed on the rifle and is incapable of in-game leading a modern Counter-Strike team. Or you have, Yakinder doesn't get back to form and he doesn't step up. There were so many risks, and maybe English, another thing you just added, Henry, speaking in English for Coldzera and Yuri, maybe that leads to utter collapse. But it wasn't the case, and we got to see all of these question marks lead in a positive direction for Furia. And now this team has so much balance because they've got a real opper. Their in-game leader Opper thing doesn't work anymore. Even 3D Max have stopped doing that.
And you've got like the kind of master teaching him as well. You've got Fallen, one of the most iconic Opers of all time.
Actually teaching Molotov how to
maintaining this talent and maturing him and making sure he doesn't fall into the same traps his younger Opers are. He's not going to be too aggressive. He's going to have balanced gameplay, and that he's going to be a remarkable. He's like already in the conversation for a top 3 Oper in the world right now. And under the mentorship of Fallen as well, I feel like he could be challenging for the #1 spot. Once he kind of reels himself in a little bit, it's kind of insane how good he can be.
I was going to say it's maybe a little bit underrated and flying under the radar. Some of like the little casual chatter that's come out of the Furia camp talking about Molodoi, because I think it was after they won like their first final. He went out in the next event and kind of struggled and really, had a hard time finding impact. And I remember Yakinder, I think it was Yakinder giving the interview saying he's got some overconfidence now. He's going for a little bit too much. He's trying to make so much happen. And that's part of the learning experience of becoming a pro, right? But it's good that it's happening now. It's good that it's happening in these events, like leading up to the major, right? Like you wouldn't want to win the event right before the major, go into it and have your star opper thinking he's the fucking big dick in the room and peeking everything and swinging into every fight. Now you get that learning experience leading into that big event, and I think that can even help Furia as well even more to have a great performance at the major.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think Yakinder brings to the team as well, is he was a player that rapidly rose to the top of the Counter-Strike scene, especially in the online era, right? Went from playing...
Bro, I had to play against that asshole in the online era. It was insane. He was so good. Like, it was ridiculous playing against him.
Yeah, so he obviously gets a massive ego, I'm sure, from all that, or an ego boost at least, climbing up the rankings of the world of Counter-Strike, goes off to Liquid, tries to be the in-game leader, very quickly gets humbled, and I think Yakinder has talked about how much he's grown since that whole experience in Team Liquid, and he's been brought into this squad as a much more mature player, and I think him being able to pass on some of the mistakes and learnings to Molodoi
still
is
one of the
massive.
most aggressive players in all of Counter-Strike, but I love it. Like, he's actually set up now. Like, Fallen actually gives, Fallen's got some of the best utility usage in the game. But he's being set up by Fallen to actually go for these aggressive plays, and more often than not, he at least gets you one every single time. So you can't really poke any holes.
And also, it was another one of the reasons why I felt confident that Chengdu would come back, because CS2 just seems tailor-made for his game. Like Peeker's advantage is strong, like getting in those brawly fights, wide swinging, like all of this. Just in my brain was always like, well, Chengdu loves all of these things.
And you know what I love about Furia right now is when they've brought in Molodoi, they brought in Yakindara, it feels like everyone on the team is actually able to play the role they're designed to play. It's not just Yakindara getting to play his style of game. You get Yuri, who's now in more of the spots that he's always wanted to be in and looks like he's thriving. In the past, he would have to make up for the fact that Cello would be dying all the time and just be, running away, making wild moves, making mistakes. And so then if you're Yuri and Coldzera, you're always having to pick up the scraps there. Fallen just didn't have what it takes to be like a consistent top AWPer anymore. So you brought in a sick real AWPer. Everyone's kind of getting to play their roles, and you can see Coldzera is even thriving because the rest of it, he's got all these aggressive elements in the team, and he's playing cleanup. He's playing closer.
Yeah, he's playing closer role now, and he's like watching the extremities, watching for rotations, and he's doing such a great job. Like his pistol play as well. You watch this kid on the USP, like he still looks like one of the absolute best pistol users in the game. Yeah. His aim is so crisp, and his confidence is back. Like Coldzera is a player, he felt like he never realized his true potential, and finally we're seeing it come through, and it's beautiful to watch. Like I'm so happy for this team. Like they deserve some silverware, they deserve some success, and it's such a great storyline going into the major.
Yeah, it is. I think too. Like I think part of it also is Chengdu and Coldzera. Even aside from like the role changes and everything like that, I think they just I think they individually fell off for a few months. I think there was like a stretch where those two were just kind of like shadows of themselves. And I think I don't necessarily think it was anything crazy individually. I think they just kind of lost faith in this project they'd been part of for so long, and all these roster changes. And as we said, never winning those trophies, never getting Coldzera that MVP despite how good he was. I think there was a moment there where they didn't fully believe that the project would ever turn around. And I think that's kind of the big thing, that these acquisitions also like reignited the belief in this team that they can actually be good. And then you get some hardware behind it, and all of a sudden you're feeling confident. So yeah, I'm with you guys. Furia heading into the major is like, it feels like they're on the launch pad right now, and there's a world in which, leading into the major, they're ready to compete deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, Coldzera, his first MVP. A question I want to bring up, because Coldzera has now been benched by Audic, right? So he's been kind of the GOAT of Brazilian Counter-Strike, one of the top players ever in Brazil.
Wait, do you really have a strong opinion on this, Henry?
I mean, I want to get into it. Like, it's just a sad story, Like,
yeah, it's because you go
from
the highs of
comparison where
Coldzera
Fallen's at right now, Jason, and where Coldzera is at. That's what made me laugh to 10. It's like, that's why I wanted to get into it. Like, what went so wrong for Coldzera, the GOAT of Brazil, I should say, and then Fallen, a player who's considered on his way out, downward trajectory, and now all of a sudden winning 2 trophies this year, looking to win the major, and Coldzera is being benched on Audic. Like, what the hell happened? What went wrong? I guess a cautionary tale. What are your thoughts on why his career has taken such a different path than Fallen's?
I mean, he's not good at the game anymore.
Good start.
Like, let's start there. Like, it's been a problem. Like, that's why I was wondering if you had. That's why I was wondering if you had a strong opinion on this, because like for me, like the sad story occurred like 6 years ago. Like that was my Coldzera sad story occurring over the past 5 to 6 years, and now at the end of it, I'm just like, I don't have any more energy to be invested in this story. Like, he hasn't given us anything.
I feel like he got lost in the sauce, though. Like in terms of like the celebrity status, all the deals, all the partnerships.
There was the
I feel like that was more important to him.
When he went to FaZe, where I think he was trying to become, become a brand, kind of like Fallen was at that time. I don't know if it was Coldzera or people around him, just because I never got the sense from because I never got the sense from from Coldzera when he was playing at his peak that he was interested in that kind of shit. Like he was the guy grinding. The story around Coldzera was he was the guy who after practice played matchmaking with his friends, and played like he was in a major final, because he just didn't believe in like pugging. He didn't believe in like the FPL, like teaching bad habits. He went into standard matchmaking with like real life friends and would just play like it was a major grand final, like practicing all of his mechanics. And I think that's it. And this is what we always talk about too with like players as they get older in their career, and especially when you have a lot of success early on. If you don't have the sharp mental edge of the game, you're eventually going to drift away. And I think this is what's happened with Coldzera. I don't think it's so much much the skills left him. Maybe they have now, but they didn't leave him like that quickly earlier. I think it was more the mental game of being like, okay, I'm not the best. Now I have to get back into that mindset of me busting my ass and working hard and grinding to get back to the top. And he never re-entered that mind space of like, I have to change something new and I have to treat this like I'm a brand new player trying to rise up again. I feel like the mentality probably always stuck with like, I'm always stuck with these not great teams and not great teammates, and I can't get back to the top because I don't have the tools I need. And I think you just see really, because I coached Fallen and I got the firsthand look, I guess the difference between a professional and someone who is only kind of like in it for the 3 years,
And I think the example of Fallen switching to the rifle is just showing that it's kind of adapt or die, right? Is the fact that Fallen is willing to do anything to remain competitive.
And Fallen doesn't need to be doing this anymore. He's an entrepreneur. That guy's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't even need to be playing anymore, and he's still putting in the hours and turning up and still competing at the very top level.
The day he retires, he's going to make like 10 times more money than he's currently making.
So Fallen was a 1.6 player, Jason?
Goddamn right he was.
Doing it for the love of the game. Yeah,
he did quote Counter-Strike source.
We don't count that.
He did say that. I just want to throw that out.
Yeah, he was converted at some point, but we don't talk about that time.
Ooh, okay. Well, fair enough. Coldzera sadly going to be benched by
well, just one more thing on the Coldzera thing. I feel like him overall, from what I hear on the grapevine, it felt like his agents, his family, they saw Fallen's success and they wondered why Coldzera wasn't regarded in the same limelight as Fallen. Why wasn't he considered to be like the godfather of Brazilian CS? Why wasn't he making his own brand? Why wasn't it all about Coldzera? I think he was pushed in the wrong direction by the people behind him. And that could have been the reason why he didn't grind as much as he should have.
I heard similar things.
Yeah. So I feel like his family, his agents saw the success Gabriel was getting, and they were like, you need to be doing that. Why isn't he getting that? And I think he just got a little bit misguided along the way.
What they didn't realize is that Fallen has a staff of like 30 people to help him with all his extracurricular activities. Yeah. So it's that was rough. The fall off of Coldzera is brutal because he was obviously back-to-back best player of the world. There's a couple other fall offs I would want studied before Coldzera, but Coldzera is on the list for sure.
I think now the interesting question is Coldzera starting kind of pretty late in his career in terms of being able to actually win trophies. But is there a world in which that top spot historically of being the best Brazilian player could be challenged, in your opinion, by anybody in Furia?
Wait. The spot of best Brazilian player?
Yeah, could it be challenged? Like, could Coldzera's position be challenged by anybody in Furia, like historically? Coldzera basically. That's what I'm.
I don't know, but this is where it gets. This is a trap question, Dinko. You tried to pull me in, but I'm gonna sidestep that shit because this always comes down to like the eternal debate. For me, this is the same concept of like because I always make the argument that I think Device for me is like the GOAT of CS:GO over Simple. And I think it's the same thing because on one level, I almost want to say that I think Fallen is the greatest, Brazilian player. If you think of the longevity of his career, the accolades he's gotten, the amount of time he's been able to play at the top, even if he's not at his peak, even if he's not like a top 5 player, the amount of time he's been able to compete at the top amongst the pro scene, I put a lot of value in that. I put a lot of value in the fact that he's still out here with Furia, making another team very, very good and helping that team win and lift trophies while Coldzera's kind of been in the wind for years. But there's no doubt that peak, that 2016 and 2017, and maybe even a little bit of 2018, Coldzera, you'd always say he's the more gifted and like the stronger player and the better player, but the accolades that Fallen has gathered just propel him so far above in my mind that it makes this one of those conversations where it's kind of boring to get into like the linguistic side of things, like the verbiage that you use, but I think it's critically important if you want to have that conversation. But if we distill it down to just like Coldzera and like versus Coldzera, I mean, I certainly think, I think he's going to need a major, unfortunately, if he wants to be able to overtake him. But Coldzera is a very similar player to Coldzera in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, if they just won that one in Rio, that was kind of the whole Cinderella story. They had a chance in Rio. That was the best chance for them. They beat the most difficult team in the playoffs. But I guess we'll move on to IEM Chengdu, which is the event, as we were mentioning, that comes right after PGL Bucharest. This is a tournament that has a lot of elite squads going to it just before the major. It's more the smaller IEMs. It's still $1 million prize pool, but it's got less teams in attendance than
you
one
guys
of
aren't
these
commentating
huge
this,
Swiss
right?
competitions. We're not. No,
Nah, dude,
we're
I'm not on that.
going.
I'm not on that 3D Max schedule. Are you crazy?
Yeah, that'd be insane. I would go, just so we know. I would definitely go. Well, we've got Vitality, Furia, Maus, the Mongols, Falcons, Spirit, Na'Vi. Now, Mongols would be in that elite conversation, but obviously with Senzu now going, not so much anymore. But, looking at this event, I'm just interested to see if Vitality are going to be able to continue the form they had at Pro League, because if they do, if it's the same Vitality from that event, honestly, man, it feels very scary because Vitality might just return to the kind of form they had in the first
you're going
season.
to see that same Vitality. They had to kick up the arse they needed. They're kind of peaking into the year at the right time. Got to be finding that form again we saw at the start of the year. And I feel like with the major around the corner, this is the chance to really cut their teeth, get themselves sharpened, ready to go. And sure, it's a real top-level event. You've got all the heavy hitters there. But Vitality at EPL, that was the real deal. That was the team you want to see. And they've had another month since then to work on any flaws or any gaps they saw in their game, and they are locked in, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm kind of the mind, like, I actually, when I look at this, I don't care about Vitality at this event. I really don't. Nothing they do is going to change my mind. Like, they could go out last place, and I'm still going to go into the major saying, yep, they're the favorites to go all the way. So, for me, nothing changes with Vitality at this event. So, for me, the interest of it is looking at the teams like, as you mentioned, we can drop Mongols out of it with the Senzu change. But it is, okay, Maus, where are you at? Can you beat Vitality? We've seen you struggle throughout the year. You beat them in Cologne. Have you made any improvements? Are you going to be looking like you're informed to challenge them? Same with Falcons. Where's it at now? Are we still going to see more improvements off of Pro League? Obviously, looked good throughout Pro League. Got bodied in the finals. Got destroyed in the finals.
Shit the bed in the finals.
Yeah,
Jason.
but have you gained that experience? Like, are you going to be looking better? Because it's kind of gauging them against the top going into the major. Same with Spirit with all their roster changes. Where's that at? G2, you had your kind of crazy, surprising run of form despite all the changes of dropping Monacy, dropping Nico, and Hunter becoming the IGL. Won an event, but can you keep that up? Are you going to look good going into the major, or was that just a really short-lived honeymoon period? Furia, can you actually challenge Vitality? Have you figured it out yet to be able to beat them in a best-of-5 final? So for me, this is about, those teams that you'd point out to say this is a team that could be making a deep run at the major or could be upsetting someone big at the major. What do they look like going into the major versus what does Vitality look like?
I like that framing of Vitality are the team to beat. They're the elite squad at the top of the world. But to me, I look at the two teams that can challenge them, and I think it's going to be Furia and Falcons. Those are the two for me I'm really excited about, because I think we know what we're getting with Maus. I mean, this is a team that's been together for long enough now. I think there's no massive upswing coming for Maus. Whereas
yeah, but
we've
seen them beat Vitality already, though. We know they can do it.
But that's the level we know, and they didn't win that tournament, Jason.
True.
And that's the issue against Spirit as well. I think when you look at Furia and Falcons, those are the teams with the most potential. Well, I suppose Spirit in that conversation too. They have this upswing period, and we'll see out of those three teams, I guess, which is going to come out on top and challenge Vitality. So Vitality are top dogs for sure, and I guess it's among those three teams for me personally.
I mean, I think this event is actually massively important for Spirit with this new roster. I mean, they got beat 2-0 by FaZe.
That was rough.
In the quarterfinal, 13-9, 13-5. So it's like, oh, this is gross. Like, I actually think Tanir and Zwei were at the bottom of the scoreboard, the two newest additions. So for me, I'm looking at Spirit and I'm like, y'all might have fucked up. Like, what are you guys gonna look like? Because I need to see something. Like, we know Donk can carry you through large stretches of the major, but you're not winning it with what we saw at Pro League. So what's the improvement for Spirit now from Pro League to Chengdu?
It's an interesting way of looking at it. I guess we can focus on some of the matches that are coming up at this competition. Group A, Group B. The Group A matches will be Tyloo Falcons, Mongols Heroic, Astralis Na'Vi, Pain, and Spirit. Any match in that group that pops off the page to you guys?
You know what? I said I was going to cover Astralis Na'Vi, but I'm changing it.
Oh,
Considering we're in China. I know no one likes to talk about Tyloo, but they're a team. They're a team with potentially one of the greatest riflers we've ever seen. Jam Young, Jason. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him, yeah.
He's pretty fucking good. And he's going to be playing on home turf. After going to the finals and winning Fisher Playground 1, we thought this is the time. This is the time. This team is going to step up and show us what they're made of. They've fallen off since. We saw them at EWC make a decent run, but then crashed out, looked pretty poor. And do you know what Jam Young said in the exit interview, he said, "I'm ashamed of my play, and I'm never going to let that happen again." And I believe him. I think this is the time. He's got the opening game against Falcons. He's going to be locking horns with Nico. He's going to be locking horns with Tesses. And this is the time.
And it's going to happen again.
It might happen again.
He's going to get completely. I am ashamed.
But my point is, if we're going to care about Tai Lu going into the future, if we're going to think that they can actually do something with this squad and they don't need changes, I feel like this is the moment to prove themselves on home soil. No jet lag, no travel concerns. National pride on the line here. Going against Falcons, I feel like if you can't show up at this tournament, if you can't make a deep run, I'm not interested anymore. Yeah. You had one fluke win. Great, but let's see what you can do going forward. Falcons are going to be unbelievably sharp in that group stages. They fall off in grand finals, sure. Playoffs, they don't look as good. But in the group stages, I think it'll be very indicative what Tyler are doing this tournament. If they can at least hang with Falcons in this opening best of 3, I'll be impressed. And if they can just get a map, that will be fine. But for me, this is an important event for Tyler. We don't talk about them very often, so I wanted to change things up. And that's my matchup, Tyler versus Falcons.
I like it. That was an audible, and you pulled it off. You stuck the landing.
Yeah. Thank you. Clip that.
Clip that. Clip it.
Yeah.
Clip it. Well, just like a clip, Jason, you give G ice cream. What are you feeling about? What are you feeling about Tyloo?
I did give G ice cream.
Just want to be known. It was Jason who originally did the ice cream bit, and that was Jason's thing.
People showed up with shirts at that moment at the major. That was fucking sweet.
You should have got some merch going.
I don't know. Like. They should be solid. They're like one of those teams though where like my feeling of Tai Lu at this moment is just like they're one of those teams that had a good run at the major and then have just kind of fallen off the face of the earth and
they
haven't
had
been
that
able to
Fisher,
get back.
Big Fisher.
Yeah, they did win Fisher, but that was a while ago now. And again, when you haven't built upon it, it's like I'm not really super interested in a team that's just going to pop off. And yeah, winning event is great, and I don't want to take that away from them. But if there's no follow up behind it, if we don't see them, even come close to achieving that success, or even making deep runs at events, right? Like they didn't do anything at EWC. They didn't make it through Cologne stage 1. They got eliminated early there. So for me, I'm kind of like, yeah, it was great and everything, but there's only so long I can get hyped up about that. So I'd like to see them do damage because I think G's a fun player. I do like Jam Young. I think Henry's correct. He's a really fun rifler to see play, and they can play some cool Counter-Strike. I just don't think they have it in any kind of consistency.
Well, my game to watch is going to be in Group B. It's G2 versus 3D Max, and this for me is interesting on multiple levels because
you love 3D Max.
I love 3D Max. I've casted so much of 3D Max. Sadly, not looking like I'm going to get the commentate and being eliminated from the tournament here, and I won't be in Chengdu, so I'm taking a 3D Max break, but I will be watching. G2 versus 3D Max is going to be exciting for a couple of reasons. G2 obviously won in London, and I think everybody got super hyped about them. Then they went on to play at Fisher in Belgrade. Hunter was playing in front of the home crowd. It was a super disappointing performance. They had the 10 a.m. game. Hunter didn't even survive long enough in the tournament for people to show up, and it was disappointing to see them drop off. Then, going into Pro League, we're like, okay, G2 struggling in stage 1, but they limp through, and we think maybe they can get themselves into form to get to the playoffs. They get into a 2-2 game, and they go up against 3D Max in that final game. And 3D Max just beat them 2-0. They beat them 13-11 on Inferno. Then they beat them 13-6 on Dust 2. So we were talking about G2 being potentially one of the best Inferno teams in the world. A lot of people saying that, mainly Hunter and Nico and Yanko, so maybe a little biased, but absolutely we're being called a great Inferno team. They lose to 3D Max in a 2-0 fashion, and I just want to see if G2 are able to bounce back and if that was a tournament win was a big fluke, or if we're actually going to see them get back to some form where you can start considering G2 as a dark horse for tournaments again. And this is a 3D Max that just beat them. They've fallen off clearly at this event, but I'm excited to see. I want to see G2 come in and handle business. I want to see them bounce back and see if they can defeat 3D Max comfortably, because G2 have had some time off. They should be improving, fixing with every tournament that goes on. And I want to see some real solid improvements for G2, especially when you're catching an exhausted 3D Max on their third flight back to China in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I think that's a good selling point for why they should be favorites in this match. I mean, I'll say I really like this G2 team. I think they've done a very good job kind of transitioning away from Nico and Monacy, and I thought those moves to begin with were pretty crazy out of the G2 camp, so I think they've done a good job of sticking the landing. Hunter, I think always felt like he was going to be a solid IGL just by knowing him outside of the server. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is a really I'm with you. I think G2 should be fine in this series, but that's mostly just based off the 3D Max that we've been watching at this event. Like I don't know what's happened coming into this event, but 3D Max looks completely different and like a shadow of themselves. And in that sense, they seem very vulnerable to just getting battered out of the server by a G2. But I'll say this: I think that tournament win kind of inflated G2 to a degree. I think everyone like the roll cells went a little bit nuts with that G2 victory. Everyone was ready to celebrate and talk about like all these different details of why exactly this team won, and it's like we don't know if this is going to continue. Like again, it's that same thing with Tai Lu. It's like congratulations, you won an event, that's great. I don't want to take anything away from you. Let's celebrate it for what it is now. But this team with the players they have should be able to be consistent. You know, Malbs and Heavy God are maybe two of the younger players that have the most potential in all of the pro scene right now. And what's crazy about it is they're young players who are kind of like living up to it. You know, like they're delivering in these roles, you know, in these games. So for me, I want this G2 team to keep being competitive. I think they're going to handle 3D Max, but what they can do in the event overall and what they can do against teams like Vitality, like Mouse, I feel like that remains to be seen on a consistent basis.
Well, there's another matchup that you had locked in, Jason, is an interesting one for you, looking at Mouse versus FaZe.
Yeah.
It's also in Group B. Group B seems a bit stacked.
It does seem a bit stacked. There's some cool teams in there. Vitality's down there as well. Furia's down there as well. It is kind of the group of death of this tournament. But yeah, Mouse vs. FaZe is really interesting to me. If for no other reason than we just all like to watch car crashes, and I think everyone on some level is holding their breath with FaZe. Thinking
not as a
this,
hobby, more as like sort of sick way.
Yeah,
you know?
if it
away.
happens to occur, you hear the brake screech and you turn your head real quick. And I think FaZe, there's a world in which they're kind of heading towards that. Also, this will be the event that they're using Jacob in place of Rain after they had that Pro League one, the one last hurrah that they got to do with Rain. And I think, yeah.
We got to cast him, didn't we, Henry? Jacob,
okay, it was that. I thought you were gonna be like, no, news just dropped, Rain's in, and I was like, oh, my bad.
Oh no, that'd be sick. I'd be a lot more happy about that. It would be Listerine.
They did not look good, but they do need more time, guys.
No, there we go. We haven't had needs more time.
They only got
in this
4 days
podcast.
practice, famously with Jacob. He didn't look great. Unfortunately, when you get to the semi-finals of Pro League and then you get crashed out in the group stages of CAC, it's not a good look.
Here's the problem. If you're any of those experienced players on this team who have played with Rain, won a major with Rain, won however many tournaments, the Grand Slam, fucking a million events with Rain. When you come into this team and then you get this like little tease of Rain playing with you at Pro League, you're like, in your head, you're going to be saying, this is what it would be like. This is what we wanted to play with him during this deep run. And as soon as you have that success, it gets taken away from you. And now you have to play with Jacob, who is put in a lose-lose situation. Not trying to be critical of Jacob at all. There's nothing he can do to come out on top of this situation because he's going to be publicly eviscerated if he doesn't play as good as Rain. And if they go out early. And then, it's just like, and what are the odds of him actually being able to step up and kind of deliver a performance like that? He's got a lot of learning to do. So I think if you're these players and you go into an event and you maybe lose a map or you maybe lose a series and you feel like it's because this inexperienced guy, through no fault of his own, just doesn't know the right plays yet or can't handle the pressure quite yet, all these new situations that he's in. I think there's an easy way that this FaZe team kind of collapses within itself. So I'm kind of really excited for that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That sounds so fun. The last game that FaZe played, they lost to Foot. So,
that was a rough one. I think we commentated that as
they
well.
They lost to who?
Foot. That's Foot. Navi Jr. Basically.
Yeah, FUT. Footballists, but we had
Demon, Lonks.
Yeah, it was a rough one, Jason.
Oh, these have some names, and these player names are outrageous.
Dude,
yeah,
we called this
old
guy
Navi Jr. without
Cemetery.
Mikase, basically.
Cemetery. Richard was really trying to get us to call him Cumtree for some reason, but his name is Cemetery.
Okay. Yeah.
And Jukes, but Dust wanted us to call him Jugs, and that was his whole thing.
That was his joke of the tournament, wasn't it?
Okay.
Jugs.
He made that joke a few times. Didn't really want to let that one
That was this event's fart jar. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. But there we go.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Oh, yeah. For anybody that's unaware, Dust made some Amaranth fart jar jokes at the major. And really enjoyed
Once he
that
found
one.
it, he really ran with it.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, it was good. It was definitely good. Well, that's Chengdu coming up. I guess we can pick a winner and overall favorite. For me, I think Vitality the favorites, and my underdog, I'm gonna go with
literally the easiest favorite to pick, isn't
Falcons. I guess they're not really an underdog because they're actually one
Let's
of the
do
favorites
this.
too.
Pick a team that's not Vitality. Let's just assume we're all going to have Vitality as the favorite to win the event.
Okay.
So take Vitality out and pick a team after that who would win if Vitality
Falcons.
doesn't. Okay. That's it? You got anything you want to say to back that one up? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Falcons are the finalists of Pro League. I think they look good up until they play Vitality. And I think Monacy obviously being back in form, the ability to go for these openers again, and how he started to really step up. He was an MVP of a losing tournament. I mean, for me, it's got to be Falcons as the second team at that competition.
Yeah.
But I guess we can throw in the likes of Furia, who've just won a tournament.
No, you can't have multiple picks.
Yeah, you picked
you
Falcons.
chose your pick. Don't just start throwing other names
I'm just
around.
giving you some examples of what you might say next.
Yes, we're
Henry.
aware of the examples.
This is why you're the fucking
use
sidekick,
those.
Dinko. This is why you're the sidekick.
Okay. Anyway, one of those teams will win.
Okay. Jason, you can go next.
I mean, I would pick Falcons as well. Just because I think the signs of Monacy coming back to life are huge, and I think that's going to open everything up.
That's what I just said.
I know, Dinko. You hit the nice talking points. I think Kyosuke with a little bit more time under his belt. I think the biggest issue that scares me, I'll frame it this way. I think the biggest leap in performance for this team is going to come from Kyosuke getting a little bit more comfortable and confident as an individual. When I'm watching Falcons play, there are a lot of rounds that they just straight up lose, I feel like, because Kyosuke has made like a positioning error. He's in like a place, like in terms of where he positions, preparing himself for the next fight, a little bit out in the open. I think he's positioning himself as if he's in FPL and he's 10 times better than everyone in the server. But in this organized game of Counter-Strike, I think positions he's playing where he feels. Well, I think when he plays positions where like this is what it seems like to me. Like these are positions that he'd play to get like a double or a triple kill in an FPL game. But when you get into the professional scene where there's the really structured spacing, really strong spacing, good layered utility, that double or triple kill turns into like maybe one kill instead. You know, and I think that's where his biggest thing is. I think obviously there's some clear weaknesses on maps like Inferno when he's playing the B bomb site, especially when he's there on his own. He doesn't really have it down of how he needs to play different situations and be positioned to actually live and play for time and play for the retake when his teammates rotate. So I think this team is going to make a big leap when Kyosuke starts getting his feet beneath him at this level of competition.
Okay, I like that, Jason.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Furia, as Dinko gave the example earlier. I'm going to pick them maybe as my winner and also kind of my underdog as well. You know, I don't think they're the favorites, but I feel like if they're going to show us that they can hang at the very top level, they can win tournaments now, but they're not winning the tournaments with your team spirits, your vitality's there. You know, they're winning the tournaments that everyone else is not attending. This is the one now. They played Vitality at Pro League. They took a map off them. It was 2-1, I believe. So if this is the team's the real deal, they're going to carry this momentum on, and they're going to show us Keitarato can be an MVP level player. If Molodoi can hang with the likes of Zaiwu, I feel like this is the chance to prove it. This is the real Tier 1 tournament. This is the creme de la creme. $1 million on the line. All the top teams are in attendance. Some jet lag in play as well. Is this team able to deliver the goods when it matters the most and set themselves up for the major? I would love to see it. I'm not sure they can do it, but that's my most interesting talking point going into this one. You've already proven you can win trophies. You don't choke in the grand finals. You've taken teams like Na'Vi. But can you do it against the actual best teams in the world? That's what I want to know.
I think one thing they have going for them too is at Pro League they really established themselves as a team that can play overpass. So I think having overpass in the map pool for the vetoes is going to be big because I don't think we've seen a whole lot of teams really take to it all that much. And historically, Fallen's teams have historically been very good on overpass. So they have 6 straight wins on overpass.
I think their T side looks very good.
Including
Vitality.
Sure.
Yeah. I think the CT side, I think Yuri struggles on the B-bomb side, but overall, yes, they do look good on overpass, and surely they would have kind of the B-bomb side is a massive issue for them. If they can work that out, I think, you're dead on. It's going to be a nice feather in their cap going forward.
Well, it's time to move on to our final segment of the show, Jason.
The best
we call this one
We love this
Counter
segment?
Stocks. Yeah.
I see what you guys did there. Yeah.
We have a buy, sell, and hold. We call it counter stocks. We buy things we think are good in the CS world. We sell things we think are bad, and we hold things that might have an upside. So I'll go first today. I'm just usually would let the guest go first, but Jason, not letting it happen.
You gonna show me how it's done?
I think we're all going to agree. I think we're all going to agree on this one.
Here we go.
As the sidekick, I'm going to lead the charge. All right. Everyone's going to agree with this. We're going to sell Mongols without Senzu because Senzu is their best player by far, and he's obviously one of the top players in the world. Getting rid of him, no longer can Mongols hold the title of a top squad. It just can't happen. You're not, especially with the player they've brought in to replace him, and there's no clear plan. There's no real pathway back to the top for the Mongols. They immediately fall out of elite contention, and I think with Senzu going, it obviously just leaves such a vacuum in motivation. This is a team, Mongols, who have not practiced a whole lot, possibly, no, definitely because of this burnout situation of Senzu that he's mentioned. So for me, it's just very sad to see the major runner-up, the EWC winning team, immediately lose their best player going into the next major cycle, and I just don't think we're going to have Mongols anywhere near the top, so I'm selling them. Selling them while they're still high on the way down. Yeah, panic selling. Completely.
Panic selling. You're realizing like you're not sure what's going to happen, but you feel like
I'm taking my profits now because it's going to go lower. It's going to go to zero.
Okay. I think that's fair enough. I don't think we don't even know the reasons why he's been removed from the squad, and it dispels the absolute disaster going forward.
The rumors coming out from some of the podcasts he's done in Mongolia is that it really is just burnout. But he's basically just gone to the team and been like, "I'm dying with all this travel."
Finish the major though, but don't fuck everyone.
I'm with you on that one. That one's crazy.
Let's get the major out of the way.
Yeah,
we'll
it's
cancel
1
the
month
events.
Yeah. Right. Like
cancel those. We'll just do the major.
Yeah, it seems crazy, but whatever. He's made the decision, and I'm not going to argue with him over his own health if he thinks he needs it. But I'll tell you this: I'm holding. I'm not selling. I'm holding.
Oh, you're holding Mongols.
I'm holding Mongols. Now, I'm not holding them for the major. I'm holding them for the term after the major.
Till Senzu comes back?
I think that's a possibility, but also I think if we're going to treat this like an actual investment, and I look into the history of the Mongols and the track record of the Mongols being able to change players and find new talent in Mongolia out of fucking nowhere and train them up to being world-class players, I have a lot of faith in Mara to be able to find that. He did it with Mizinho. He did it with Senzu. He's done it basically, I feel like, with most of this team. And I'm going to hold and see what happens. Because when Mizinho came into this team, watching him play in his first few months was like, where the fuck did they find this guy? He doesn't know how to play the game of Counter-Strike. And look at him now. Look at him now, like, a year and a half, whatever it's been later. Playing really well, strong force on this team. So I'm just going to hold, just because I think the major is obviously going to be a train wreck with the stand-in. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. But after the major, when we see where they go and where they see they pull, I'm going to hold until like 2 to 3 months into them picking up their newest player. And then we'll kind of reassess.
That's a great point, Henry. We were out there in Mongolia. We have seen the land centers. We have seen the production.
They've got an ecosystem out there, a healthy ecosystem of young players who want to make it to the top. The next Senzu, the next Mzinho, he's waiting to be picked up. Yeah. He's available.
Yeah.
Anything you want to buy? Anything you want to buy, Henry?
I've got a crazy curveball for you. Ooh. Now, the idea of buying stocks, crypto, whatever it may be, you want to find a good deal. You want to find something that's bottoming out. And you want to see whether it can come back in the future. So I'm talking about Electronic being picked up in BC Game. We know he's looked dog shit for 3 years. He's looked rubbish. Yes. He's trying to be an in-game leader. But we're talking about one of the former GOAT riflers of CSGO. We're talking about a guy that's done it all. He's picked up a major. He's been part of some of the most iconic partnerships in history. We're talking about him and Simple. And now they're back together. And this is his last chance to learn. This is it. There's no way out of this. It's the last entry, last ticket in towards Tier 1 CS. And if he squanders this opportunity, I'd be very surprised. He's no longer going to be in-game leading. He's just going to be rifling. He's not going to be part of some bullshit, slow-paced system. He's going to be put into the thick of it, running around, getting headshots with his wingman, Maverick and Goose back in the cockpit together. And I feel like if this doesn't work out, he is done. This is the best opportunity he's ever going to get. He's getting the big money as well. The cash is going to be coming through. Your last chance to get a good ride here in Counter-Strike. So, yeah, the stock is incredibly low right now, but that's why I'm buying it. I feel like he knows this is the last chance. If he fucks this up, he's done for. So let's see what Electronic can do. I don't necessarily believe in him, but I want to see him come back.
Surely they can dominate Tier 2, Jason. Like, surely Maverick and Goose, although they're, retired and have issues, they're still going to be able to dominate the Tier 2 scene.
Mate, I wouldn't buy this with your money. Like I'm not touching this one. I'm not touching it at all. This is a massive sell. I know I'm gonna lose money. I know it's cheap, but I'm out.
Selling the bottom,
bro. He failed to the degree of destroying Cloud9. He failed to the degree of destroying and disrupting Virtus Pro. The last two teams he was in have actually just crumbled and fallen apart, and no one's wanted to be there. So
I'm buying the bottom, baby.
I mean, as an actual stock, yeah, it makes sense. Buy it when it's ultra cheap. But I mean, look, let's be. Obviously, I think they can come in and they might be able to dominate tier 2. But let's see what the mentality is going to be like. Like, I'm not convinced these guys are going to come back in and be taken this seriously. And really, does the value increase that much if they dominate tier 2? Isn't it just kind of what we expect?
Well, the tier 2 idea is like they're going to build up VRS points and eventually get that one invite.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Right?
I don't think we'll see them make it back into tier 1 on this team. I think either one of them could make it back into tier 1 by getting picked up by a squad, but that's going to be simple.
I don't know. I think BC Game is going to bring in tier 1 players into this team. Like, I think that if you have Electronic and Simple,
I don't know who's going to want to go there.
That's true.
Rain?
I don't know who's going to want.
Would Rain want to play on this team?
Yeah,
I don't.
No,
I don't think so.
Give it a go.
No.
He wants to be in-game leader, right?
Yeah, but
he said he was open to it. He said he was.
Imagine your first in-game leader project being Electronic and Simple in 2025, nearly 2026. Not gonna be a very comfortable project.
Hey, I'd love to see it. It's the car crash.
Dude, that is the car crash. We could not look away. We'd be watching every single BC game. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. Thanks, Jason, for joining us. We've got to go cast some Counter-Strike now. All of us, really. Henry, you're over on the B stream today. How's that been going?
It's difficult doing it remote, not going to lie, but still enjoying it. Working with Harry is an absolute pleasure, and we're having some fun. We're just doing one game today, so it's going to be no problem.
Hopefully you get some of that.
Legion versus Fnatic, I think.
Hopefully you get that B stream lock back in action today,
Yeah, I hope so.
You've had some very long games, so we'll see how that goes over there on the B stream. But we're going to go get ready to cast. Jason, thank you for joining the podcast. Anything you want to say on the way out?
Nah, man, thank you for having me.
All right, easy stuff. All right, well, that's been another episode of the Post-Plant Podcast brought to you by BitcoinCasino.vip. In the next episode, we'll likely be talking about the Blast Rivals Season 2, so we'll be talking about Hong Kong. We'll see how Chengdu went down as well. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.